everybody, welcome back to A Case of the Jills. So where is she this week? Last week she was in Colorado, where is she now? Actually, I'm at my parents' house while they're on vacation. It was a quiet space for me to record today, and I just decided to use the space. And you know what? I don't care how old I am, there's something kind of weird about being in your parents' house when they're not home. Like, I feel all of a sudden this need to be deviant. Woo! Ma, this is really cute. Look, it has sparkles. Woohoo! 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 Do I even want to ask you guys? But I mean, I wouldn't really do that. Today I wanted to talk to you about something I've been thinking about a lot. You know that I do a lot of research on the topic of hypothalamic amenorrhea, and I'm always trying to find ways to understand it better and to understand all of us better and our behaviors and understand how we actually got here. I'm also always trying to find ways for us to understand how to get out of this. I'm not going to generalize, but I am going to say that a lot of us fall into this similar kind of personality and thought patterns. So I thought today it would be really helpful for me to sort of pull apart some of the things that we do to talk ourselves out of actually getting better. Today I'm going to be talking about defense mechanisms. I wrote the book on defense mechanisms, okay? I wrote the book and I have the copyright, and every time someone uses a defense mechanism, pretty much the royalties go to me. We use defense mechanisms when we feel threatened or uncomfortable, or that some part of something that we consider to be central to our person becomes shaken. It is a maladaptive coping skill. It basically means that we're not coping at all. And this is what our brain does in order for us to process what's happening. In the case of hypothalamic amenorrhea, we have to come to understand that, as much as I hate to say this, we are pretty much at fault for where we are. Whether it was something that began sort of inadvertently or if it was something that we actually purposefully tried to achieve, losing our periods is actually something that we have agency over. We sort of got ourselves into this mess, and the beautiful thing about that is that we have the ability to get ourselves out. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the recovery process, that's the last thing we want to hear. Many of us, and myself included, want to point to any number of things as the reason for where we are and why we're there, and we're just not ready to take the responsibility of doing what we need to do to get better. So we use all these defense mechanisms, sometimes many at the same time. You might just have your favorite that you stick to, and that's how we get through it. I know that at the beginning of my recovery process, I employed quite a few of these defense mechanisms. And quite honestly, I have to remind myself from time to time because old habits die hard. So let's pull apart some of these defense mechanisms and see if we can get to the bottom of things. I know a lot of this is hard to hear, and please remember that as I go through all of these, I did every one of these, okay? And I'm absolutely not pointing fingers. I'm telling you mostly about myself. So I hope that this is helpful for you. Okay, the first defense mechanism I want to talk about today is called repression. Another way to think about this is what you forget won't hurt you. I did this for a long time. I actually sort of forgot that I didn't get a period and just sort of enjoyed the benefits of not having to bleed every month. No cramps, no problem with birth control, no messiness, no having to time my training or my races. Everything was great. So repressing the actual fact that I wasn't getting a period was not helping me at all. In fact, it was part of the reason why it took me so long to figure out what was happening. The second one for me, I don't know about for you, is playing the victim. For me, this had a lot to do with my celiac diagnosis. I leaned on that heavily at the beginning of this whole thing because I really thought that that was related to the reason why I did not have a period. I had heard many times before that celiac disease can be associated with infertility, and I just assumed that not cycling was something having to do with some kind of malabsorption in my intestines. I wasn't getting in enough nutrients, or that just celiac disease somehow magically turned off the period button somewhere in my world. It was yeah, this is just my body. I guess there's really nothing I can do. I considered myself powerless and hopeless against the situation and thought that there was nothing I can do to change it. I see this a lot, not just with celiac disease, but I see girls a lot of the time saying, no, I'm just a victim of some kind of weird anatomical or physiological problem that's happening in my body and there's nothing I can do about it. Kind of hand in hand with this one is rationalization. This is the third defense mechanism that we're going to talk about today. And this is the one where you use an excuse to justify an experience that reflects negatively on you. For me, I know now, but was unable to admit that amenorrhea is ultimately my fault. I made poor dietary choices and I am the one who overexercised to get me to this point. However, rationalization is what I used to avoid that knowledge. Again, I went back to celiac disease. Another thing I did was say that this was a normal thing that would happen to someone who was just really dedicated to her sport. I rationalized amenorrhea by saying that it was something that was positively associated with being a better athlete. I also tried to say that there was something wrong with my pituitary gland, rationally thinking that a tumor on my pituitary gland would create this type of hormonal disturbance. Well, yeah, that's true, but that's also not what was happening. It's also rationalization for me to say, well, my doctor's not worried about it, so I don't have to be. That one actually got me through a couple of years. The fourth defense mechanism is slightly different, and it's called intellectualization. With intellectualization, we are trying to apply our intellect to a situation, even though we already know what the solution is. In our case, with hypothalamic amenorrhea, the solution is to exercise less and to eat more. Of course, the side effects associated with that are difficult for us to deal with. So I see this a lot of times with women scrutinizing their test results. More often than not, they're spending a lot of time in analysis paralysis and also Googling tons and WebMD and every other thing, trying to find some magic in the numbers, avoiding the actual truth, which is there's no magic, there's just less exercise and more food. I think we're starting to get to understand that the center of this problem is the biggest and baddest of them all. The next defense mechanism is denial. Denial is simply not accepting the truth. We know we have hypothalamic amenorrhea. We know that the treatment is to exercise less and to eat more. I sound like a broken record today, don't I? Yet we continue to exercise, or we're unwilling to make dietary changes that support our recovery. Some of us will switch to an exercise that we think is less strenuous, but it actually ends up being just as strenuous, if not more strenuous. I've heard this a million times. You can stop running 2 hours a day, but you can't replace it with 4 hours of hiking. You can't say that running on roads is going to be less strenuous than running on trails. It's not less strenuous to run on the East Coast versus the West Coast. Denial makes you substitute one problem for the other. Denial also pops up when we try to address our diets for recovery. I am eating carbohydrates. I'm eating the carbohydrates that I enjoy most. So I'm having carrots and bananas and beets and yogurt. Wait a minute, a Kind bar has like 14 grams of carbohydrate. That's a lot. There's totally carbs in almonds. Okay, Jill, really. Not calling anyone out here, this is what I did. Denial is also the thing that tells us that we're eating healthy when we're counting every last thing that's going in our mouths. I eat 2,137 calories per day. I enjoy 1.75 teaspoons of peanut butter on my 1 slice of Ezekiel bread with 3 teaspoons of sugar-free jam. Nope, believe me, I did this. I did it and did it and did it. You're not alone. The next type of defense mechanism is called deflection. This is an ugly little sucker, let me tell you. This is the one where you deflect talking or thinking about yourself and start talking about the other people. You know that girl at the gym who has 6-pack abs and she's drinking her pre-workout and you're looking at her going, I bet she hasn't had a period in years. I've had people send me pictures of runners randomly off the internet and say, do you think she gets a period? And we're endlessly criticizing everyone around us. Oh my God, did you see her? She still eats paleo. Oh yes, I am not proud. I have done this myself. And sometimes I still do it. Every time I'm on Instagram and I happen to scroll through the gorgeous and the lovely, it does pop into my mind how many of these women ovulate. It doesn't help me feel better about myself, and actually it's kind of ugly. And of course, my favorite defense mechanism is fantasy. Fantasy is when we look back at the idyllic moments in our athletic career and convince ourselves that they're just beyond our fingertips. This is when you look back at old photographs from when you used to compete, or when you used to race, or maybe when you just were super extra skinny and actually really excited about it. And make no mistake, this is not motivational. This is not something where you're looking at old photos and thinking, gosh, I really want to get healthy again so I can run those trails. What you're doing is objectifying the shape of your body at the time where you were doing that athletic event, and you're trying to get back to that. That's not going to help you. It's not healthy. So now, what do? All of these defense mechanisms help us avoid reality. So, do we want to continue to avoid reality, or do we want to actually embrace the facts and move forward? Moving forward means getting better. And getting better is a wonderful thing, but it's not without its difficulties. You do have to be mentally and physically strong to take this on. Luckily for you, you're not alone. We're creating an amazing community here of women who not only have already been through this, but have yet to go through it. You have a support system around you that is much bigger than you think. Don't let these defense mechanisms take you away from your ultimate goal of getting your period back. You can do it, I promise. Hey, so listen, you know, I'm still trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of August. And yes, the time is going by. I only have 2 months to go. I do have faith though, and I really think I can do it. So I would really love it so much if you could share this video with anyone you think would benefit. I've had girls email me from triathlon, from running, from the bodybuilding community and beyond. If you think any one of your friends in any of those communities could benefit, please, please, please pass it on. And also hit the subscribe button. It's right there. You can find me on Instagram at acaseofthejills. You can also check out the website, acaseofthejills.com, which is somewhat under construction right now, but new things are coming in the months ahead. Thank you so much for watching this video today, and I hope you have a great week.